Hello everyone, welcome to this special session. So SBI PO Mains is just around the corner. So what are you thinking? What are your thoughts at this point of the time? How are you feeling? Let me guess. I think I can guess one thought of yours very precisely. And tell me in the comment section whether you are actually feeling this thought, actually having these feeling at this point of time. And that is so close to SBI PO Mains exam. You must be thinking that whether you will be able to give your best on the day of the exam. That means that whatever hard work that you have put in for months and months, will that result in your best performance on the day of the exam? This thought is coming again and again in your mind, yes or no? Tell me that, right? And if it is coming, it's good, because you should be thinking this thing, because at this point, when you have given so much to this exam and you have come till this far, it's understandable if you think and you are a little stressed about the fact that whether you will be able to perform your best on the day of the exam, right? Months of preparation, watching lectures, making notes, taking mocks, right? You ought to think about this, right? I agree. But you know, my friends, what happened when we get so much into these kind of thoughts, when we start thinking that, "Arey bhai, will I be able to do my best on the day of the exam?" So what happens sometimes is counterproductive of what we want. What we want? We want that we are able to handle the paper with confidence and the best of our skills, right? Now, then when we have these kind of thoughts, it results sometimes in opposite reaction. Under the pressure of our own expectation, our parents' expectation, or what we think we should be doing, all of these together creates a mental tension, a stress, which leads to performance in the paper which is suboptimal. You know, you are capable of much more than that, but you end up doing much less. Has it happened with you, right? In mocks or maybe in other exams? If it has happened with you, there is every chance that it can happen in this exam also. And if it has not happened with you, there is still that chance. So one thing is that understanding that what can go wrong. So this can go wrong when we have this thought. Having this thought that whether I'll be able to perform my best or not, that is most natural. Even if I tell you, or anyone comes and tell you at this moment of time that don't think about it, you will not be able to come out of that thought, because you have given so much to this exam. That's a natural thought. But the problem would be if due to that thought, and we are not able to handle that thought in a constructive way, we end up messing our paper. That would be a problem. So in today's session, my agenda is to guide you in how to handle these thoughts, one, and second, to give you pointed advice on what you can do to use these thoughts of yours to your advantage, so that you ensure that you perform your best on the day of the exam. Now, you might be seeing that I am focusing a lot on your best. Why is it so? There is a reason for that. See, understand, at this point, so close to the exam, is there a possibility that you would get some magic mantra or techniques which would help you to score amazingly well in quant or amazingly well in reasoning, or you get 100% score in English? Would that happen at this point? Wherever you are at this point, you would be more or less at the same position in the exam also, right? Okay. So your capability skills are not going to get a whole soul upgrade in the next couple of days. Is it going to happen? No. So in that case, I know at this point only, I know where I stand in terms of my capabilities. And if you have worked hard, if you have worked smartly, if you have prepared well, then that capability would be more than enough to clear this exam. If you have gone through the sessions that we have taken from time to time, advising you what to do, how to strategize for the paper, then you are there, right? You have the capability of cracking this paper. But the point is that whether you will be cracking this or not. So your best would be more than enough to clear this paper, but you will have to ensure that you give your best. And that's why I am focusing again and again on your best part. right? Now the pointed advice that I wanted to give you. First, I'll give you 4 points on which you need to think and act on it accordingly, so that you ensure that you give your best on the day of the paper. The first thing out of all these 4 is, whenever you take a section, make a plan of attempting that section. Now, how do you make a plan? You make a plan on the basis of going through the paper first, or that section first. That means you must have watched some of our mock analysis. What do we do in our mock analysis? We go through the paper once and we identify which are the areas from where I'll be able to do more questions, right? Okay. How do we identify? What is the parameter on which we decide? We have taken mocks, right? You've taken mocks, you might have taken other mains exams also. On the basis of all these exams attempts and the scores that you have got from the kind of questions that you have attempted, you know what are your strength areas, which kind of questions are your strength areas, topics are your strength areas in each section. Yes or no? And also your weak areas. Also, which question takes you less time, which question takes you more time. All of these categories you have an idea about. If you don't have that idea, then it's not good, because I have been telling you again and again in the whole season that how you should be analyzing your mocks and how you should be knowing which question is going to take me, what kind of questions would take me how much time. If you have done so sincerely, then you know all the data in your mind, have all the data in your mind. Now what we will need to do is to apply that data. In every section, based on my strengths, and that means your strengths and the kind of paper that you have got, you would choose which questions to do first and which questions to do next. As I told you in before IBPS PO Mains also, that that differentiation should be made based on the speed and the accuracy of each question. I'll leave a link to that session in the description section and the pinned comment also, so that you can go and identify how to identify these kind of questions. You can go through that session. So once you have done that and prioritize your attempts. Now what did you do after prioritizing your attempts? What is our purpose? Purpose, repeat after me. The purpose is to give our best in the exam, right? Now, when will I be able to give my best in the exam? I will be able to give my best in the exam when I am able to do all those questions which I am good at. And if I have to leave some questions, those should be those questions which I am not good at, right? And that process starts even before attempting the first question, from prioritizing the sets or questions that you would be doing in which order, because your order would be set on the basis of your strengths, right? Now, but you have just glanced through the questions. Now you have not read all the questions, and from the type of the questions you have decided that, boss, these are the questions I normally do well, and therefore I'll put it at the top. But when you read the question, you might find in a lot of cases, or in some cases, the nature of the questions differ, and on that day you thought that you will be able to do this question fast, but you are not able to do this question. Then what? So for that, you will have to prepare a contingency situation. We'll have to create a contingency situation so that I am able to give my best in the exam. So what is my second advice then on the basis of it? The first advice was plan the paper, plan every section in what order you'll go. Obviously not general awareness. General awareness, go in the order the questions are there. If you're able to mark, you mark it. If you are not able to mark, don't mark it. Also in general awareness, I'm just going a little off track to general awareness, so that what I had to tell you about general awareness, I can share that with you. So in general awareness, another thing that people are doing a lot of mistake is that nowadays we are seeing that in general awareness there are a little analytical kind of question. Means that there will be case, and based on that there will be question. So a little bit of reading time would be necessary. So whenever we read, we think a lot, right? But in general awareness case, you do not need to think a lot. If you have the answer to that question, you'll be able to mark it in the next 5 seconds or so. If you don't have an answer to the question, by thinking you will not be able to generate the answer to it. Yes, by elimination you might be able to, but that would also take you 5 to 10 seconds, not more than that. So if in any one of these ways, if you are able to mark it, or leave it and move ahead. Clear? Right? So in general awareness, keep this in mind. Don't waste your time by overthinking in questions, because it's not something where you will find a solution. It's not like the other 3 areas, right? It's a knowledge based paper. Now coming back. So our first advice was to make a plan of attempting the section. Now the second advice that I would give you is, you should be ready to leave questions. Now, why am I saying so? Simple. You see, what did I tell you? That when I chose a priority for my attempts, it might be a case that day some of the questions that I've chosen as my priority 1, they were difficult and I'm not able to do that day. So what I will do? I'll waste time in there, kya? No. After a certain point, you would leave that question. Now, how would you identify what is that certain point where you would leave the question? So, for example, let's say I'm just giving an example. In English, fill in the blanks, double filler question. Normally, you take around 40 to 45 seconds to do a double filler question. And in the first 30 seconds of that particular question, you are not able to eliminate the options. What would you do? You would think a little more and answer the question. Or you will leave it and mark it for review for later. Which one will you do? If your answer is the first, then there is an attitudinal change that you need. You see, in 30-35 seconds, you've already read the question. If you had the answer in a confident manner in your mind, that might have come at that point of time. So, in around 70-80% of the time that you normally take to do a question, if you are not sure about the answer, not even sure about the answer, even if you are not sure which to eliminate and what not, then it is better to leave that question and come back later on, right? Come back later on. Obviously, it's in fill in the blanks, it would be 40 seconds. In puzzles, it would be 3 minutes or 4 minutes, right? But that time you will have to decide based on how much time you take on an average in a particular set, right? In understanding the set. For example, in a puzzle, if it's a puzzle that you normally are able to do in 3 to 4 minutes, but in the first 3 minutes you are not able to understand what is being given, then banging your head on it for another 5 minutes and trying to solve it is a waste of time. Mark it for review and come back later on and solve it if time permits. So, in this case, you see what is happening. If by chance you have wrongly prioritized your paper in the step 1 or that I gave you, then this is the contingency. That even if you had done so, you will not waste all your time. You will invest some amount of time in it and understand that this is for later on and move ahead and ensure that you are trying other questions too, where you might get a question where you would score. So this is something that you need to do, the second step. And this is where a lot of people fail. They pick up a question that they normally are able to do in mocks or other paper, and that day, for some reason, maybe it's a similar kind of question, but for some reason, sometimes it happens, very similar things we are not able to do in the paper. It happens, yes or no, right? So, in such kind of cases, people get into an ego tussle with the paper or the question. So, when you get into an ego tussle in the question, who loses? You lose, right? You lose. The question setter wants this. It's a competitive exam. You get into an ego tussle of the paper with the one or some of the questions, you lose valuable time and end up not being able to do questions which you might have been able to do otherwise. You getting the point? But this step of being ready to leave the question would ensure that does not happen. Clear, right? So 2 steps are over. Now we will do the third step. So what is the third step? When you have chosen a question, you went through it, you have not left it, okay. So in a puzzle, you are able to understand the puzzle in the first 2.5 minutes, but now you'll have to crack it. Cracking it would take another 3-4 minutes, which is okay, right? So you have already decided that I'm not going to leave it. So what is the first step that you will decide? Once you go through the question, if you are able to do it, you'll do it. If you're not able to do it immediately, the second step is that, am I going to leave it? You decided that you are not going to leave it, then you focus all your energies in solving that particular question, right? This is the third step. At that point of time, do not think about other things. Do not think about how many questions left. Do not think about what would be the result of this paper. Do not think about any previous failure. Do not think about how many questions you have done. No, nothing. Only the question in hand. Obviously, in that also there would be a time limitation for that. If let's say on the first try you were not able to leave the question, but you're not able to do the question also, you leave it and move ahead. Sometimes even after so much planning, you might end up doing a mistake in one or the other questions. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. But when this kind of thought process is in your mind, that would happen much lesser. For example, when I tell my students these things, what happens is that earlier in their paper, 5 or 6 times they would end up having an ego tussle with a question. When I show them that this happens when you do that, and they realize it, which you also now realize, they reduce that by a huge margin. 1 or 2 times they get into ego tussle, but not more than that. And if you want, and if you have very high control over yourself, then it can be 0 also, right? Okay. So when you have decided to do that question, you should be only inside the question, not about think about anything else. Now this happens a lot in puzzles, in logical sets or RCs, right? This happens a lot because there are longer sets, DI sets, longer sets. Even if you have cracked it, for every question you need to do some work and then answer the question. That's how it happens, na? Now in such kind of cases, what happens is that people for some time they lose focus and they start thinking about these random thoughts start coming. All of these stuff gets coming. You will have to block them. If you don't block them, they are going to cause you more harm than you can imagine. Okay, so that is the third thing. Only think about the question, nothing else when you are solving the question or set. So these were the 3 main changes that you will need to do if you are not doing. If you have gone through my mock analysis and our guidance sessions, you are already doing it. This session would serve as a revision of that thought process so that you remember and ensure doing it in the paper. So these 3 things. Now the fourth thing, and maybe the most important thing, because that is something which is related to our intrinsic attitude, and that is when you go inside the paper, do not think about success, do not think about failure, do not think about what would happen if do not imagine the rosy picture or the slimy picture that if I pass this exam, what would happen? If I don't clear this exam, what would happen? Nothing. Then you'll say that nothing, to kya soche? How would we go thinking of nothing? Well, what you should target is to enjoy this paper. Think of it this way. The paper setter and you are in a unique chess match, right? Every question is one move by the paper setter and he wants you to waste time. It's a problem to be solved or to waste time in that because it's a time bound chess match, right? So either you solve that move or you give a different move which is not connected to that particular move but inside the time frame. This is what you will do in a time bound chess match, na? The same thing you will do in here. When you go inside the paper chess match, you go to enjoy the chess match. You go to play, right? You go to win, obviously, no doubt about it. But you get a lot of satisfaction by giving a good game. Even when you are defeated, you get a satisfaction of playing best. That's something that you need to get in here. So if you get the satisfaction of giving your best in the paper, there are every chances that you will be able to crack this exam. Or think it the other way. If you are not enjoying the paper, if your primary focus or emotion in the paper is of stress, is of tension, you're going to take all the wrong decisions inside the paper and mess up your paper the most. When your philosophy behind the paper would be, I'll enjoy the paper, I'll take each of the challenges. When I take the challenges, I'll see whether I will do this challenge or I will leave this challenge. When you think these stuff, it becomes a game for you, and that's what needs to happen this year in SBI PO Mains for you to give your best. Clear? Right? Okay? So ensure these 4 things and you will ensure that you have given your best inside the paper. And if you have prepared well, your best is more than enough. So clear what you need to do. So think about this, sit quietly for some time and think about what we have discussed, what I have told you, the advice, the 4 things that I have told you to do. And on the basis of that, if you need to reorient yourself a little, rewire yourself a little, do it. It's a 30 minutes activity. Sit with yourself and do it in your mind, because this controls everything, right? So once you have done it, you would, find yourself in a new avatar. You will be able to look at the paper in a more mature manner. So that will be all for today. I wish you all the best for the upcoming SBI PO Mains exam and any other exam or interview that you have for this season. Go give your best and secure your dream job this year. Thank you, bye-bye, and all the best again.